Welcome to the Play in Faith podcast, where we dive into the world of sports through the lens of optimism, inspiration, and faith. We're on a mission to infuse youth sports culture with positivity and joy while building the largest network of college Christian athlete mentors in the world. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy today's show. All right, it is Coach Chris here with Play in Faith. Super excited. I've got Jamie Salazar with us today. He is a three-time All-American wrestler. And now life is full circle. He is the head wrestling coach back at his alma mater, Wawasee High School. Jamie, it is awesome to have you on today. How's it going?
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here on your beautiful facility. I'm looking out here, seeing the birds chirping and, your blueberry trees. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh, life is good, man. Well, it is so good to have you on here. That was going to be part of my intro. You guys are going to love Jamie, not just his experience, but just such a cool outlook on life. I mean, the kids who wrestle for you got it good, man.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. It's always, like you said, full circle, being able to give back to where you come from and to, be a change maker in people's lives. That's what it's all about.
Man, that's awesome. So we're going to get into all of that, but I'm just curious, tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, wrestling's been a part of your life since childhood. It remains to this day. So tell me a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, so, it started here, born and raised in Syracuse, Indiana, otherwise known as Wawasee. Most people know it as Wawasee rather than Syracuse. They're like, oh, you're from Syracuse, not New York, Indiana, But, it just, it was kind of wrestling has always been a family tradition. I was on the mats when I was, when I first started watching, my uncles wrestle at the high school level, and just the being around the sport and, seeing the determination, the hard work, the coaching staffs that they had to kind of, raise me on the mats and kind of set the tone of what level of expectation that sport needed to be. Followed through it. My first wrestling match was 4 years old. And, my dad spent all this money getting me ready for my first match. And I stepped on there and I saw this guy had these Asics shoes that was like top of the line shoes, all decked out. Here I am with t-shirt and shorts and, don't come from a very, well-off family, but,
Sure.
We had enough to get by and participate, and told my dad, he's got real shoes. He's got real this. I don't think I want to wrestle. So, my dad dropped all this money and the first wrestling match was a no-go. So, that was kind of a fun little limelight that bridged me into like never giving up and going into the next Saturday.
Well, it got better, obviously.
Yeah,
it got much better than your 4-year-old debut. So
yeah, it did get better.
Obviously, great high school career and even led to some college opportunities.
Yeah, so that kind of just led the whole thing to build the love for the sport of wrestling. I actually played basketball for my freshman and sophomore year. Just made that transition to high school to wrestling, had some great coaches, and then went to that next level, made it to state in Indiana. There's, you have 14 weight classes, 14 state champs. There's no classes in wrestling, and I was fortunate enough to place 7th in the state of Indiana, and then later wrestled for Manchester University and had some success there. And, here we are. I'm back at Syracuse, Wawasee High School, and, trying to build champions on and off the mat.
And that's what it's about, man. We talk a lot about the athletic portion and success, and as well we should, right?
Right.
But there's a lot more going on than just what's happening on the mat. So I always appreciate with everyone I'm blessed to speak with, you guys are all humbler than you should be. Not just a little bit of success, right? So obviously in college, and it sounds like you really developed a career. I mean, 7th in the state's impressive, but to go on and have the kind of success you had in college, so 3-time All-American at Manchester, correct? Recently inducted into the Manchester Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah, so I was a runner-up in 2001, then had a actual knee injury, was out for a couple months still training, and then came back, ended up placing 6th, and then my senior year I got 4th at Nationals. And then, I was recently inducted, kind of caught by surprise on that. I mean, I knew that, I had some success, but, being a Hall of Famer, especially for any university, it's a great honor, but it's,
Sure.
It's past just your wins and losses. It's how you carry yourself and how you are representative of your community, your team, and things of that nature. So it was definitely an honor, and it was an honor to receive that award from my former coach, my late coach who just passed away a couple months ago. But it was a lasting memory, just the important impacts of having a coach like him and others along the way to get me to goals that I never thought I would accomplish.
I love it, man. I mean, I think it's for all the things that I get to do in life, I do feel like maybe the biggest ministry is coaching elementary and middle school basketball girls. I mean, it's just so gratifying, the impact that we have that really goes far beyond our sport. So tell me a little bit about the way you were coached. And I know, obviously, when you have that level of success, so Manchester is an NAIA program.
D3.
D3, I'm sorry,
yeah,
D3.
NCAA
So
D3.
then there's like a ton of pressure on athletes coming up. I even hear it with some of my young kids. Everything's D1, 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 scholarship. And that's fine. Lofty goals are awesome, but man, there's a lot more going on. So at some point early in your college career, you're having that success. You had an opportunity to transfer to a D1 school, chose not to. Tell me a little bit about that moment and kind of where that decision came in, and maybe the role of your coach in that decision as well.
Yeah, so my upbringing is kind of an old school where your name and your word is like everything that you live off of. So my grandfather instilled that early, my father, carrying the legacy and being loyal or having loyalty to a program, especially nowadays when you have all this NIL stuff and people are going everywhere and it's all about money rather than the loyalty thing. And yes, money pays the bills, but sometimes, loyalty outweighs that. And
starts young too.
Yeah.
I mean, young. You're seeing even like middle school, high school kids starting to get some of that pressure. Yeah.
And I understand the whole concept, but, I was just kind of a different breed. And, my wrestling coach at that time, every family event, he was there. He was showing up, birthday parties, sending, things. I was going through a hard time. He was there, some late nights conversations, just kind of helping me, through life. And I knew that he cared for me more as a person rather than an athlete. Obviously, he cares, with my success as an athlete too, but, he care about me first. And I know that sometimes with your D1 programs, I was right there, getting ready to sign the paper, but then you realize, hey, if you don't perform, you lose your scholarship, you may not get the same advantages. And, it's like, hey, I like you, kid, but we got to go to the next person. It's kind of like, are you really there for the relationship and the experience and, growing into your success, or are you going to be with somebody that's proven that before you even had your success? And that kind of was where I decided to stay where I was at. Plus I was competing against Division I opponents anyway. So it's not like I was lacking that competition. But I didn't know if that relationship base would be there at that next level that, sometimes a smaller school or JUCO or like you and I talked about any competition past high school, there's very few that do that. And if you're able to do that and have a successful career, 4 years of that going into your collegiate career, I mean, that speaks, on itself. So I encourage, whatever's the best fit for you to go with that, not just the D1 glamour. I mean, everybody would love to be on TV, but you can always compete at a wrestling tournament and be on TV that way. So that's kind of the reason why I stayed home. It was all about, the relationship base, and, he stuck his neck out for me numerous times, and I felt like I owed that to him.
That's awesome. I find that the more conversations I have, and maybe the real blessing of this whole Play in Faith mission, I'm speaking to just such interesting people, athletic directors, coaches, professional athletes. We have a professional athlete coming up later this month that did not play in a D1 program at all. And it's the second person I've met like that. I've got a lot of athletic directors, and they all say the same thing you just did, where it's fit, right? It's not necessarily the name on the front of the jersey or the brand, but successful people come from everywhere.
Right.
And we're learning so many of those lessons. You can get those at so many places about when you find the right fit for you. So we talk about some of those lessons that you've learned. Obviously, wrestling's had a massive impact on your life, on your career. So what did you take away most from wrestling beyond just the sport that really impacts the way you coach, the way you view your career, the way you view life?
Well, I think the sport of wrestling, and I think this can kind of, stem to other sports and athletics. A lot of times that's what, as a coach, I've learned, and as an athlete, it's pretty much the same. Sometimes that's the only thing that they have going well for them. I have some former athletes that I coached that didn't come from the best upbringing, that, their only way out of the chaos was in that room with the lights dimmed down by themselves, doing sprints or doing wrestling moves or preparing and trying to focus on being the best person that they could be on the mat. And that's kind of the only time that they ever was a person that was somebody.
Wow.
As an athlete, I knew that if I was struggling and I had a coach that would tell me like, hey, I know it sucks. I know that it's going to hurt. But think about everybody else that's doing exactly what you're doing and those that aren't doing what you're doing.
So what do you mean? We say those who aren't doing, meaning putting in the work.
Yeah, putting in the work.
Yeah.
My regiment when I didn't understand what it meant to be that next level until I actually was at that next level. It's waking up at 5 o'clock, doing a morning jog, going and working out and lifting weights before your 8 o'clock class happens. At lunchtime, you're going and running a couple miles on the treadmill and then going into practice. And after practice, where you can't even, you literally have to take a break. And the beautiful thing about the history of Wawasee, it's always been a hard knock program that always stuck. And just the coaching staff has always expected things to happen. It's crazy to where you literally have to have a 15-minute rest before you can even go down the stairs. And then after you're done with that, you take a shower, then you go watch film and study moves and stuff to master your craft or break down the film that you've watched. I know you've broke down films on the basketball courts of your girls, where their position isn't right or they're not setting the right screen. The small things that we have to focus on, your hand position, how to grab the hand correctly. Mm-hmm. Why do you grab it this way? If you grab it this way with a thumb on the inside, that means that it's going to expose them and you'll have full opportunity. But if you grab thumb on the outside, they can, we call it in essence, reach for their holster and counter your move. It's just
subtle, right?
It's the little things that you have to take into consideration, and it's the little things that are overlooked that won't get you to that next level.
See, I love it too, because when you mention watching film in a sport like basketball or football, where you're watching the All-22, or in basketball, we're watching game film, there's so many things going on that we control, but a lot of things that we do not.
Right.
One of the things I find fascinating about wrestling, obviously not my sport. We're not on video. I'm 6'3", 185.
Yeah.
So I cut weight for today's interview, but
yeah,
I think I would be a little outmatched. It's a daunting sport if you're not used to it, where there is nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Right. It is. I would imagine there's some fear. Maybe fear is not the right word. Apprehension. Right. You're walking out there. It is you, another human being, and a mat. There's no teammate. There's no timeout. There's nowhere to hide. There's no one to pass the ball to. It is you on that mat. And in that moment, how well you've prepared becomes really, really evident, right? So I love the breakdown of what a day looks like. And I think that's really, really fascinating for folks at home, because a lot of people want to be great. They don't want to do what it takes to be great and then wonder why they don't get the result.
Right.
But man, there's a lot of mental stuff going in here.
Yeah.
So how do you mentally prepare your athletes, or even maybe for you, how did you get mentally prepared to walk out there, just you in the arena? That's a little daunting, man.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny the way that you paint that picture, and I always painted that picture in my head, but then I had to somehow, like when we coach the youth program, how do we get that across to where they don't want to pull what I did when I was 4 years old? And hey, this
guy's
just
got
got
the
everybody.
I'm not trying to scare them away from the sport. It's a daring sport.
So the beautiful thing about the sport of wrestling, it's one of the oldest sports in history. It's biblical. And it comes from an era of gladiators. So we paint that picture as you are a gladiator fighting in an arena. Nobody else is there but the person in front of you.
Lion's den, man.
You're in the lion's den. It's either you live or you're done.
Yeah, right.
But the great thing about it is you can always come back and improve next year, next week, or whatever that
But
is.
in those few minutes.
In those few minutes, you have 6 minutes to make a difference.
Yeah.
You're either going to learn by winning, or you're going to learn by losing. And one of the things that I always stress with my wrestlers, I don't get upset at them if they don't win.
Sure.
I get frustrated when they don't try. So wins and losses are, yes, obviously they're always important when it comes to your career and, getting recruited and all that stuff. But a lot of that is based on character now.
Yeah.
If you have good character, you have a good work ethic, you have an ability and willingness to learn, and you're coachable, I will take that kid every day if they have 0 losses to somebody that thinks they know everything under the sun and they don't want to do.
Yeah, I talk to college coaches, we talk to athletic directors. They are watching the way you handle winning and losing as much as they're watching winning and losing. Obviously, winning and losing matters, of course, and it should, but it's not everything. So I'm going to go back to something you said here, where you said, you're not going to get upset with someone if they lose. Of course not, right? I mean, it's a binary outcome.
Right.
Like the other kid wants to win too. Someone is, someone isn't.
Right.
It's man on man, right?
Right.
Or woman on woman.
Woman on woman now, yeah.
Right? So you're upset when they don't try. So I'm going to throw out a hypothesis here. I doubt if very many kids get on the mat and objectively do not try.
Right.
But I would theorize something gets in the way between the ears to keep them from trying on the level that you want and expect. So what is it? What happens?
Well, I mean, it all goes back to practice.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you are focusing on, say, like a double leg takedown, and we're practicing it every week, and you get it down and you're hammering it and you're just totally flaring with it. You're taking the double leg, you're doing a Superman finish, you're doing a blast double or whatever, and in practice you're just hitting it. But then the biggest competition is yourself. So you automatically start doubting yourself and everything that you perfected, and when you step on that mat, you let yourself defeat yourself. That's the frustrating part, is that you have to believe in you. And I'll be the first one with a sign holding it. You can do this. Believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can somebody else believe in you? Yeah. I believe in you regardless. And the biggest thing for me, that teaches you self-worth, that teaches you to believe in yourself, not to be satisfied with where you're at later on in your work life. Don't be satisfied with just being a mediocre person. Do everything with pride. I mean, it all goes back to biblical. If you're a janitor, you clean that school or whatever to the best of your ability, because you never know who's watching. You never know what opportunity will stem from starting at the bottom. There's tons of things. And for some, that's not even a good analogy, because maybe that's their dream, to be the best janitor in the world.
Sure, that's what Dr. King, right? Be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can be.
Exactly.
And I think that's the magic of sports, isn't it? Where we win, we lose, we learn as much from either outcome. Where I feel like the real learning comes is the preparing to go out and compete.
Right.
And that's a word you'll hear all throughout our program. And full disclosure, we coach at the same school. So you'll hear compete. And to my girls, I tell them, it doesn't mean we go out and try on the field. It means we give every ounce of ourselves with passion and fearlessness, no matter what the obstacle or the circumstance. And I can't think of a sport that exemplifies that more than wrestling.
Right.
You fail to compete, you're on the mat 3 seconds later, you're done.
Right.
Right. I mean, you don't get much of a window mentally. So I know faith is a big part of your life, and I imagine it is for a lot of your wrestlers too. So how has that faith helped you dig into that reservoir to compete, to be mentally tough? Like, how do you lean on that faith? I
mean, I've lived a life without it, and it doesn't work.
Amen.
To the fullest. I mean, everybody is imperfect. I mean, we all struggle with our dailies. The biggest thing, for me, and that I try to instill in my wrestlers, because nowadays a lot of the struggles that we're having is not just the will or desire, because we've been so prone with just being a participation type of person, just to be on the team, but there's no effort.
Yeah.
You can't just work a job and not put any effort, because obviously if you have quotas, you're not going to meet them. And then guess what? You can't keep your lights on, so it's a sense of tough love, but preparing them for what's to come, so they can go through life saying, nobody ever told me. Going back to your question with my faith, wrestling wise, man, I come from a family that, my father was a police officer. My mother was a diehard Christian, praying for me every day. Still is. My father's now retired, but my mother praying for me every day was what kept me alive. And then using that strength, I diehard believe in my national championship ring. I have engraved in my ring, it says 1 Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I believe that to that day. So when I start feeling like, man, I'm having a rough day, or I'm having trouble getting through this, I literally just touch my ring and remember that he's the reason. Yeah, he's the reason. So when you start thinking like that and you profess success will happen. Yeah. If you're not used to it, like I told you the other day, I encourage all of my athletes to put a sticky note with 3 goals: personal, spiritual, and what they want to do with their family.
Love it.
So if it's help my parents take the trash out every day, you see that every day you wake up. I want to be a state placer. You see that every day when you wake up. What are you doing to work at that? Are you living by what that sticky note says? Or are you just seeing it, I'll get to it later. Well, if you don't take that trash out, pretty much you're going to have a whole dumpster full before you take it out, So, and then it's going to be harder. Yeah. So if you set the tone and, I tell them, make your bed every day, get up. Even if you don't do anything, and I remember watching a video, even if you don't do anything in your life, at least you come home to a made bed.
Right. So we start the day with a sense of accomplishment.
Exactly.
So I mentioned on the show a couple times, I started speaking professionally when I was still a junior in college, and one of my very first programs that I wrote, and probably naive, and I'd hate to watch it in retrospect. I'm sure it wasn't as good as I remembered. But it was called, the theme was, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And I think we talk a lot about building better athletes and leaders. And I think most people look at it as the athletics lead to the leadership and the career success. And I would contend that it's a completely circular relationship.
Correct.
That the things we're doing in the classroom translate to the athletic field as much as they do vice versa. So it's really cool that I love that focus. And I know we've got a lot of youth coaches and hopefully a lot of youth parents listening. I love that idea, the 3 sticky notes. And a lot of times we talk family, we're talking to adults and parents. Mm-hmm. This is high school kids,
right,
who are part of that family too. And just what an awesome lesson you're teaching them to model it now, because I guarantee you 15, 20 years from now, they model it for their kids.
And that's the unique thing about the sport of wrestling is there is no other sport that is a village sport like the sport of wrestling. I mean, you have wrestling moms that are some of the hard-nosed people that will stand up for any kid. I love
every sport has its own culture.
Yeah.
You guys do have a culture. Wrestling culture is different, man.
It's crazy. I mean,
I had a different breed.
I had Wawasee wrestling fans that would come and watch me wrestle in college. Some traveled all the way to national tournaments in Iowa to watch me. I mean, when you're truly in that village and you grow within that, I mean, there's still people that have watch Wawasee wrestling from back when I wrestled, and now they're watching every generational,
I bump into a wrestler and they will drop 100 names on me of people that they wrestled against like 22 years ago. It's almost like if you watch like the Karate Kid, they're talking about the All Valley 86. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, like the photographic memory you all have, but it does seem to be such a tight knit like community, and it seems like so frequent that people that wrestle in high school and especially in college, you never leave the sport.
No,
here you are now, right? Yeah. You can't quit. You're a wrestling coach, man.
I mean, yeah, and it's just hard because, I mean, are there times, am I human? Yes. Do you get frustrated with things that you're just like, why am I even here? Mm-hmm. You go back thinking about that ring. It's like, hey, somebody or some coach stuck their neck out for me and tried to paint the best life for myself, realizing that anything that I desired to do could happen. It's your job to do the same for the next generation.
Love it.
Like my nephews, coming up. I just had a nephew graduate from playing college ball, and now he's a 3rd grade teacher in the school system and giving back and wanting to coach again. I mean, it's just a beautiful circle of life, and that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, it's the golden rule,
I love it.
And, saying stuff to the parents, sometimes I feel that in order to have a successful kid and grow into a sport, you have to let the kid learn the sport.
Yeah.
Not every kid's going to come on the mat and just be a stud. Not every kid's going to step on the basketball floor and be a Caitlin Clark. Even though you think your kid is a Caitlin Clark, they have to be coachable. And a lot of times, a lot of that stress that stems for the kids not thinking that they're the best in everything they do. Sometimes it's just let a kid be a kid.
I love it. We have a ton of it, and I've had this conversation with a few other folks too, but it's become a research obsession of mine. The impact that family relationship has on not just athletic performance, but also our mental health, our enjoyment of the sport, long-term participation. So a ton of information on the Play in Faith site. And like I always say, I fully believe that 99.99% of parents have the most wonderful intentions. They don't mean, they just love their kid and want the best for them. But, hopefully we can be that good resource too. Because some of the stats are a little disappointing. So, as we kind of wind down here, with a lot of sports, especially if you go on the internet, you'll see tons of skills and drills: volleyball, baseball, basketball, soccer. Wrestling's a little unique. It's not a team sport. There's no ball. So training is a little bit different.
Right.
So for the 12, 13, 14-year-olds out there listening, maybe even high school kids who say, man, my dream is to get to where you were. I want to be sitting in that seat. That's what I want. What advice would you have for a young wrestler who says, man, I don't want to give this up after high school. I want to do this for a while?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to that one thing that one little saying that we talked about, where we were talking about Joel Osteen. It's like we live in a microwave society, but we have a crock pot God.
We want it now, don't we? Yeah, give it to me now.
So the most important thing that you would have to do is focus on the basics. You can't build a structure, or you can't build a house without the foundation. So you have to get your foundation right. You got to get your steps right, your head placement, things of that nature. Once you have that done, then we can start moving to the next step. There has to be phases, because if you just automatically try to start doing stuff and you see a flying squirrel wrestling move where you're jumping and doing somersault over somebody, grabbing them, sticking a leg in and doing a gut wrench instantly, that takes time. And most of those guys are either like at that level, or they've practiced it 1,000 times.
Sure.
And you just can't try it on your first match. It's not going to work. I mean, if it does work, you got really lucky.
Yeah.
But the odds are is that it's not just that, it's like everything else that goes into it. And that's just like with your placement in life, like sometimes you just got to go back to the basics to recenter everything.
Sure.
And for those kids that are wanting to go to that level, ask questions, go to camps, go to summer workouts. If there's moves that you want to learn, see what moves you have to learn before you can get to that move.
Sure.
Because a lot of times, there's, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is the final step. You just can't do the final step before you do step 1.
Yeah, I imagine the physical conditioning too. Technique, but diet, in the weight room, what you put into your body. It matters in all sports, but wrestling just seems like if you're not doing those basic things, that needs to start well before college.
If you want to be at that level, you have to have a life at that level. And you
say that one more time. That's perfect.
If you want to be or compete at that level, you have to have a lifestyle at that level. Yeah. So you have to and it's not mom and dad telling you. It's if you're hungry and there's somebody hungry, there's a difference between hungry and being hungry. If you're starving, I don't care if there's a piece of bread and mayonnaise or mustard, you're going to figure out something to eat. But if you're just hungry and you're going into the pantry and there's nothing there that appeals to you, but you have a whole pantry full of food, you're not really hungry. There's a difference. You're either starving for everything that you want, and you have to be hungry and starving for its life or death, or you're just being content because it doesn't appeal to you. That's the difference between competing at that next level or just being a mediocre athlete.
Man, I love it. I love it. I see the ring. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. And I love the strength you're giving to these young athletes. I hope this is an amazing season for you. I hope the athletes come out starving and not hungry.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to be there cheering you on. And just thank you so much for sharing some of your ideas, sharing your passion, your wisdom, and your gifts with others. And Jamie, thank you so much for being here. And I wish you nothing but tremendous success this year and beyond. and just keep doing the stuff you're doing for these kids, brother.
All right. I appreciate you and getting this podcast going, man. And I think it's a great thing. And we're change makers, man, and you're definitely one. So
we're trying, man. That's the goal. All right. Thank you, man. It's great having you here, brother.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Thanks for tuning in to the Play in Faith podcast. If you love what you heard, please take a moment to rate our show and share it with your friends and fellow athletes. Together, we can spread the joy and positivity that youth sports deserves. And be sure to visit playinfaith.com for more fantastic resources. We're on a mission to build a vibrant community of Christian athlete mentors that are not just a voice your athlete will listen to, but one they should. Until next time, keep playing in faith.